All right, everybody. Celtics have 3 deserved days off coming up here. So we're going live today. Right now, it is Thursday afternoon. We're going to hit you with a game called Something or Nothing, where we take a look at some stats from the early part of the season. And is it something? Is it nothing? I don't know. Stick around, find out. It's Green with Envy. You guys know the deal. Let's lock in. What up, what up, what up? Welcome into another edition of Green with Envy. As always, this is your boy Will Weir checking in. How you doing? How you living? Joining me as he does each and every time, my best friend, co-host, and the coach of our podcast, the one and only Greg Menakis. Greg, little different schedule for us this week. Little mid-afternoon Thursday recording. Nice little change of pace. Keep you on your toes.
Yeah, it's not bad. You know, it's funny. I'm going to start by completely throwing us off track right away. Something that's just
honestly, that's the most expected thing to happen on this podcast.
Something that I've been like struggling with and thinking about since it happened. And I just want to make sure that we're on the same page because it's been driving me crazy. On Monday, me, you, and Townsend met up to play ball. And Townsend at one point asked...
Townsend is one of our friends here in Austin that we hoop with, just for the audience.
And at one point he asked you, he said, "Oh, was Greg the man in high school? He says he was the man," which I never said. The way you responded to it, I was like, God damn it. Now, like, Will thinks I'm going around like misrepresenting myself for decades here in Austin, Texas. And I've been thinking about it, but I knew he was kidding when he said it. So I was like, was he just making inferences because of like how I was like, oh yeah, I was the starting point guard. I was the quarterback. You know what I mean? Like, like when you hear it from an objective point of view, it's like, oh yeah, like sounds like a pretty cool guy. Right. And then it's like, yeah, but it's Greg.
And for the audience reference, immediately he was like, yeah, you sounded like the guy at my high school who did that. He's from Indiana. The kid that he's referring to was like a D1 quarterback and then also got offers to play basketball like at a D1. Like it was like Indiana Gatorade Player of the Year. And I immediately, when he said, I was like, listen, Greg's life was not like that in high school. Yeah, that I didn't really, I'll be honest, when he said that, I didn't know I didn't know how I was supposed to react to it. I didn't, because one, I was like, man, I hope Greg's not out here gassing himself up like that. Like, Greg was cool and he was fine. Like, you know, I mean, like you were, like, you know,
I mean, you want your best friend to like ostensibly be cool, right? Like, I mean, you're my best friend. I would always describe you as a cool dude, but I would never be like, yeah, Will was like the man. You know what I mean?
Like in my head, when he said this, I'm like, damn, Greg described himself like the jock in a CW show walking around with like his Letterman jacket on and just like the girls are all scheming up ways to hook up with him and shit. And I'm like, that wasn't quite what high school experience was like. But that's kind of what it sounded like.
If that's the life that Greg has been living in his head, then just let him do it. You know what I mean?
So
but it's been bothering me. It's been bothering me. I'm like, God, I have to bring this up. Like, because it's been driving me crazy. Like, I don't think I misrepresented myself in those conversations.
Well, here's the thing.
I just want to clear the air in case you're like, God damn it, my friend is a conceited dick.
No, well, I mean, in the moment, it did cross my mind. And I was like, is it my role as your best friend to keep up the lie to do this
exactly
so like in my head, like I honestly, like I don't know if you noticed, but like I kind of like didn't like I responded, but like
we didn't even make eye contact when it happened. We both like avoided each other's eyes.
We were like, what is this fucking lie that's happening right now? Like, do I need to be like, yeah, dude, you should have seen it, it was a scene, man. Like I was, but I also like it. You didn't, from the things that he knows, you didn't lie. Like, you were the high school quarterback. You did play on the varsity basketball team. You did play varsity baseball. Like, those are all true facts. There's just a strong lack of context that goes along with it.
That's great.
And
No, but
so
I just wanted to hop on here and just make sure that we cleared the air just in case you were like holding some resentment towards me. And this is what anxiety is, right? Like
it's
ever
it's
since that,
funny.
I've just been like stewing on it, like thinking about it nonstop. Like I gotta talk to Will about this. And then
That's
I
so
told
funny.
myself on the pod, I told myself, okay, I'm gonna address it on the pod so Will sees exactly how transparent I'm being. I'm doing it in a public forum.
Yeah. So it's one of those things where, like, in the moment, I had like right now, you and I could talk about this, and I could tell you all the thoughts that went through my head, and it was like 20 seconds worth of thoughts that I could now verbalize into maybe 10 minutes, right?
Right,
Of like,
exactly.
what does it mean? This means that. All these different scenarios. Have not thought about it since we left the gym.
Love it.
But until you just
Great.
brought it up right now. But in that moment, when I was like, what are my responsibilities? How am I supposed to act? Should I hype Greg up? Should I continue? Or should I just be like, get the fuck out of here and like just like, go that
Which
route
is what
as
you should have
well?
done.
Yeah, and instead I kind of just fell in the middle and just was like, I kind of hope we move on to a different conversation.
Yeah. That's
That
exactly
that was
what
kind of
I
where it went to. But so in the spirit of our episode today, I'd say ultimately that was nothing.
did.
It was
Okay,
something
great.
in your head,
Yeah.
and ultimately it's a nothing. And I hope Townsend listens to this because I'm sure it's something that he has not thought about since
Yep.
we left, and we'll have to send him the beginning of this episode because that's actually really really good. So in a way, even though you took us on a completely different path, you did get us to the premise of
There we
what
go.
today's episode is going to be about. So real quick, just in case you guys haven't been following along, make sure you guys are subscribing, hitting the follow button on YouTube, Twitter, TikTok is popping right now, thanks to our guy Alex. So make sure you guys are catching up with us everywhere. And of course, you can check out some of our past episodes, including our interview with Shea Serrano. Highly recommend that you guys go back and check that out, either on YouTube or wherever you guys listen to podcasts. But last night, we were gonna do a podcast after the Celtics Grizzlies. The Grizzlies just were non-competitive last night, just from the very jump. It just didn't feel like a very fun game to have to come on here and be like, hey, let's find something to talk about in this game. So instead, we decided to push a day, especially with 3 days off coming up here for the Celtics. It's been pretty quick hitting these first 13 games for the Celtics. So
Feels like
without
every
taking a step
pod
back,
we've been doing other than the Shea pod has been a game recap.
yeah,
And like we don't mind doing game recaps for you guys. Like I like listening to a good game recap pod on another pod feed or whatever. But like in general, we want some content that's going to last more than just like your passing thoughts from the night if you miss the game, right? So that's basically why we if you were looking to tune in last night, we apologize. This is why we postponed because we wanted to give you something with a little bit more substance. And we're better when we're prepared.
yeah, it's a more fun podcast for us. That's just how we prefer to pod. But it is the name of the game. If there's a game, sometimes you just got to go live. You got to do it. It's what it is. But with a couple days off, with the blowout last night, Celtics are now 6-7, 3 days off, and so we wanted to figure out a way to talk about what's happened so far in this season. And so we came up with a gimmick that we're going to call something or nothing. We've got about 10-ish different stats and statements that we're going to throw out there, and we're going to decide. Is it something? Is it nothing? Greg, I've got one here that I'm gonna bet we both have on our list. So I'm gonna go first because I'm gonna get out of the way because I'm pretty sure
Okay.
that we're gonna have it because it seems like the topic du jour, if you will. So I'm gonna go with my first something or nothing, and I'm gonna talk about Jordan Walsh. And I'm going to give you just a quick context on Jordan Walsh here before I go into my something or nothing statement. Jordan Walsh, over his last 3 games, here's some individual defensive statistics for him. Versus Orlando, he guarded Franz and Paolo primarily, only 8 points and 2 turnovers forced. Against that duo, Maxey the next night or a couple nights later in Philadelphia, 4 points, 1 of 9 from the field when going up against Jordan Walsh. And then in the most recent game against the Memphis Grizzlies, he guarded up to Jaren Jackson Jr., 2 points, 0 of 5 from the field, 2 turnovers. Greg, something or nothing? Jordan Walsh is the new Avery Bradley.
I wasn't thinking the new Avery Bradley, but I kind of like that. Like a 6'6" Avery Bradley is one hell of a player, man. Like honestly hadn't made that connection in my brain yet. And Avery Bradley, when you think back to the impact that he had on the late Big Three era with KG, Paul, and Ray, he was kind of the guy that drove a wedge between Ray Allen and the rest of the team, right? Because Avery Bradley earned some minutes that other people were not expecting him to get. So I like that. I'm going to say that's something, man, because Jordan Walsh, I've always compared him to Iggy. He has all of the measurables. What do you do on the basketball court, as you said? And what he does is apparently he plays on-ball defense where he can guard Tyrese Maxey one night, Paolo Banchero another night, all the way up to Jaren Jackson Jr., who's not the most physical offensive player, but he's 7 feet tall and has a battering arm for a forearm. So yeah, man, I think it's something. I really think the Celtics, the internal competition between Josh Minott, Ugo Gonzalez, and Jordan Walsh is going to drive them to be the best versions of themselves within the role that they're currently tasked to play, which is going to be that wing that's playing off of Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, right? Right now, just Jaylen Brown. And Josh Minott set the bar early in the season. He said, this is what it needs to be. Ugo also was like, all right, I see your bar. I'm going to try and jump and hit my head off that bar. And he, maybe jumped over it at one point. And then Josh Minott, and they started going back and forth. And Jordan Walsh didn't get his opportunity. I think it was until the Wizards game, right? The Wizards game in the blowout was when he got his first opportunity to get some real run. It may have been another game. Maybe the Wizards game was the game after the blowout. And because I think he played against the Rockets. I think that's how it went. And he just looks great, man. He's like, all right, Josh Minott, I see the corner crash. I see the rebounding that we so desperately need. I'm going to go ahead and do that. Ugo Gonzalez, I see the deflections that you're getting. I see the on-ball defense. I'm going to go ahead and do that. So now he goes from not being able to really do anything on a basketball court to doing like ultimate role player stuff. And it's really exciting.
Yeah, this is an interesting one, right? And the Avery Bradley comparison for me was, and I'd have to go back here and look up, but it was either year 2 or year 3 for Avery Bradley, right? When he really jumped out and was like, oh shit, like he's stealing minutes from Hall of Famer Ray Allen right now, and he deserves to. You know what I mean? Like it was a little jarring, and it's to your point, it's part of what drove basically Ray Allen to Miami, right? Was that he was losing minutes to Avery, and it was at the time, and you've heard since KG and Paul talk about, Avery was a pest in practice, right? Like we were like, who is this dude? Like, right, where did he come from? And and it's interesting because they both have certain pedigrees. They were both McDonald's All-Americans. Avery Bradley at one point in high school was the #1 ranked recruit above John Wall. Excuse me. Jordan Walsh went into high school, or went from high school to college as potentially being a lottery pick. He falls the second round. So there are certain similarities to it in kind of the way that Jordan Walsh is establishing himself. And I'm with you. I think it's something. I'm a little tentative only because to the point that you were making about the competition between Jordan Walsh and Ugo and Josh Minott is that, at least for now, and this is probably the funnest part of the Celtics season for me, in my opinion, is a little bit of the flavor of the week, right? Like the flavor of the week was, Ugo popped out in the New York game. We're like, oh shit, how can Ugo's got to play all the time now? Look at this 19-year-old. Then he gets a DNP basically the next game, and Josh Minott kind of takes over the mantle for the next couple of games. Ugo pops in, and then Jordan Walsh in the last 3-4 games has really all of a sudden come on. I think he first got his chance in the blowout against the Rockets, and has really kind of built off the momentum from that. And what makes me lean towards this really being something is those are 4 legit names that I just dropped in the last 3 games that he is taking the main assignment against. And because it's from Maxey to Franz, who's a wing, to Paolo and Triple J, who can kind of be power forward centers, like that's a wide range of people that he is able to guard and do so extremely effectively. And even, our buddy Liptak, who's been on the podcast before, is a Knicks fan, said he was checking out the end of, I think it was the Sixers game maybe. And you had mentioned something like, man, this dude Jordan Walsh is kind of balling out defensively. And he said he had noticed him without really knowing much about Jordan Walsh or the background that we know as Celtics fans. So like for him to jump out off somebody just tuning into the end of a game kind of randomly, basically, like that also tells me something, that it's not just us like being extra locked in on what are these 3 guys doing. It's sticking out to, unbiased observers that are just kind of tuning into games. And so for Jordan Walsh, I think it's something. I don't know if it's going to continue to the heights where, at one point Avery Bradley was being compared to like Darrell Rivas, like Rivas Island, Bradley Island. There was like a little bit of that at one point. And Avery, to this day is still one of the, at his peak for that 2-3 years, maybe the best on-ball defender I've seen in small increments, right? Like, but like what he was doing was really crazy in that time. And he's one of my favorite Celtics, probably like one of the more underrated Celtics. Like thinking back to the draft we did, I wish somebody had drafted Avery Bradley. I don't think we did, but Jordan Walsh, he's on the trajectory. It's a fun part of the season that I didn't see coming. And between these three guys, just week in and week out, we'll have to give you an update as to who's stealing the show.
All right, I'm going to go a little goofy here.
Let's go.
Peyton Pritchard cut his hair. He said his wife wanted him to grow it out. Women, they like long hair. I don't know if you know this, Will, but women like a full, luscious head of hair.
Yeah,
but he always like to keep it short while he's hooping. And honestly, I thought with the haircut, he looked faster. He looked bouncier. And most importantly, he looked confident on the court, which is what he did not look in the Sixers game.
Mm-hmm.
So my statement, Peyton Pritchard's confidence is directly tied to a high bald fade, something or nothing.
I love how much you enjoy the aesthetics of how a guy looks. Like, I remember we had the Marcus Morris black shoes. He's just better in black shoes, like the way he cuts and moves. And I feel like there's been another hair version of the statement that I feel like you've made in the past before. I can't think of it, but I know
JB's braids, maybe.
It might be JB's braids, but for Peyton Pritchard, I'm gonna say I'm gonna double down and say it is something, because the confidence was so noticeable. I tweeted about it last night. Just, you could see specifically in that Philadelphia game, just the overthinking that was happening in Peyton Pritchard's game. And there are shots that, like, listen, when he wasn't hitting shots, and he's starting to turn that around, hitting more shots here over the last couple of games or so. And even early in the year, I wasn't worried about Peyton Pritchard. I was like, man, 17% is pretty bad, Peyton. We got to start hitting some shots. But his confidence, he was shooting good shots, right? He was shooting shots that I've seen him make a bunch of times. He's a career 40% shooter. Like, that's the guy he is. He came in as a shooter. He's always been able to shoot, right? His handles and his shooting have been two things that have never been a question about him in the NBA, right? It's everything else, like about his size, about his playmaking, whatever else. You can question those, but shooting and ball handling, he's always been able to do. And so, seeing him kind of, and he talked about this, how he was feeling like it was 2-3 years ago. I think he mentioned where he was like, yeah, I just kind of lost myself for a few games. And like, I went, a couple of years ago, went 5 games without a bucket. And like, I just didn't feel like myself. And so having that short hair is what it takes to get back to being that dude, because this team is 6-7, and we're going to get to some other stats about them that are kind of confusing if you're just like going off subjectively watching them. If they're going to get to, where they want to be, which for this season is probably top of the play and maybe fighting for that 6 seed, like him and Derek White got to hit shots. Like, they just haven't hit shots, and they're somehow almost 500. And so if that's what it takes for Peyton Pritchard, buzz cut it up, my guy, because I do think he looked way more confident in the last game.
I think a lot of it had to do with like how quickly he was getting his shot off in the game last night, which I think is directly tied to confidence and not like overthinking mechanics. It felt like early in the season, his 3-pointer, which leans more set shot than jump shot, was like a true like 1960s set shot. He was taking forever to get that thing off. And which is why I think he was leaning a little bit more into the mid-range, because he just like felt like his mechanics were a little bit better with the mid-range shot. That's my inference that I'm making off of that. But I do think that last night he came out, he was a little bit more on his toes, less on his heels when he was shooting. He was getting off the ground a little bit quicker. Maybe that is just confidence and he wasn't thinking about it. But I noticed it like from the very first shot he took in the game last night. I was like, oh, okay, Peyton. Like, coming off, no hesitation, coming off a screen, I think, moving to his left on the wing, shooting that 3-pointer. And then I love what the Celtics were doing. They ran a lot of zoom actions for him last night. So the zoom action, for everybody, it's when you go pin down. So Peyton Pritchard in the corner, right? They go pin down, so screen down to the corner for him, and then a dribble handoff with a big, right? So it goes pin down, dribble handoff with Keita. Pritchard's coming to his right hand. He's got the pass to the corner. He's got a kick out to the wing. He's got Keita rolling hard to the basket, right? And it seemed like they started to unlock something a little bit with Pritchard there. He mentioned how he and Keita starting to understand a little bit of the spacing and the timing, where he likes the lobs and things of that nature. So as much as I want instant gratification from Peyton Pritchard and for him to be, a borderline all-star point guard, which I think he has the potential to be, it's not going to happen overnight. Just like all the other guys on the team, it's going to take them a little bit more time to grow into these new roles that they have this season. I think you'll see Pritchard figure it out. He's too good of a player for him not to.
Yeah, 9 assists against the Grizzlies. And I do think the connection with Kada was very noticeable in that game, right? And I know you called it a zoom action. I saw somebody else call it like a Bilbo action. Bilbao? I forget. I don't know. Like the city in Spain. Anyways,
Yeah.
I saw them call it that, where it leads to like the Kada alley oop on that similar type action, and that's something where it's like for Peyton, like that was the biggest concern for me coming into the season. So if he's going to get back to just being confident, where he's 5 of 10 shooting the 3-ball last night, like that's what he should be doing. He should be shooting 10 solid threes, quick release. Like if you're open, he should never think about it. He shouldn't think about what like yes, we want him to be a playmaker, but your role, especially with this team that's gonna, last night offense wasn't an issue, but it is gonna be an issue in a lot of games this year. If Peyton Pritchard sees daylight, he should shoot. That should not change in his diet of how he plays. And then adding on the different, playmaking skills, I think that's where you're gonna see the biggest change in him. And so, hey, if it takes a haircut, takes a haircut. All about it, man. All about it. All right, let's go to the next something or nothing that I have here. And these are just some stats that are just kind of surprising to me, Greg, and I just want to get your thoughts on them. So right now, your 6-7 Boston Celtics are currently 9th in offensive rating, 8th in defensive rating, and leaves them 8th in net rating with a plus 4.9. Something or nothing, because it doesn't feel that way watching this team, but they're top 10 in both categories and they're 8th in net rating. Something or nothing.
I'm going to go something. And let me explain a little bit more. So I actually had that written down as my first stat, because I know that's a stat you always go to when you look at championship teams, right? Are they top 10 in both offensive rating and defensive rating? Most championship teams are, right? I think the Celtics are the only team that are top 10 in net rating that are under 500 currently. And I think maybe part of it could be the blowout win against the Grizzlies, right, that they just had, which is going to inflate some of those numbers. And then the blowout win against the Wizards, was it? And
yeah.
I think maybe they had one more blowout win, right? So 3 out of their 6 wins, I think, have been blowout wins. So that's going to inflate those numbers to some degree. And that's what, good teams can do, or the best of the average teams will do, is they'll beat up on low level competition, right? Which is what they've been able to do thus far. And there is something to be said about the defensive identity that they're starting to develop, right? Those wings, like when they had Ugo, Minot, and Walsh all on the court together last night during garbage time, I was like, this is my type of basketball. Just like
that might be something. That might be something. That feels fun to watch.
Right. So like my something, this is something, is more like it's something because of where the schedule is like creating a loophole in those stats. You know what I mean? Ultimately, in terms of like, are they a championship contender this year because of that? As you say, that is a prerequisite for a championship team. No, I don't think they are. I don't think they're a top 4 seed. My guy, Phil Keefe, that I've referenced a few times on the pod, he thinks they're going to be a 4 seed at the end of the year. It's wishful thinking, but there are elements to this team where you watch them and you're like, man, like they might just be a Jason Tatum away. That's what we have. They're waiting in the wings. Is Jason Tatum looking to come back sooner rather than later? By the way, did you see Jason Tatum's latest video of him, working out in the gym?
I have not. I saw him on one of the last road trips working out. What was this last video?
It was, I think the Celtics posted it. It was him. It was just like a clip of him coming down, hitting with like a little cross hezzy pull-up jumper, and it just looked smooth. It looked good, man.
Yeah, and adding Jason Tatum back, that's a pretty good piece to add back in to any mix. I think for me, I lean more that this is nothing. This is kind of just early season. To your point, like 1 or 2 blowouts really influence it, and for the most part, the Celtics have had 2 blowouts in their favor. And even when they've kind of gotten blown out against Houston, like it, the game ended up being a little bit closer than what the score indicated. It was a little bit closer than what the game actually was. And so, I think with this team, to your point, I think the defense has the potential to continue to be somewhere around that 8 to 10, 11, 12 range. It's the offense. This is not a top 10 offense. I'm sorry. I just don't see how this can be a top 10 offense. Again, the caveat to this is, to this point, Derek White and Peyton Pritchard have shot the ball pretty poorly in majority of the games. And so if they start just hitting shots at a normal rate, maybe it is. If you're the most optimistic, that's one way that I think you could look at this and say, hey, they're ninth now. Just imagine if Derek White and Peyton Pritchard get back to consistently shooting 38%, 39%, 40%, which is typically, kind of where they're at. But as we've said before, or as we've talked about in this podcast, with those wings, they're really fun. They're really up and down offensively, right? Those are all three guys that are going to play a lot of minutes. And some nights, Josh Minot's going to hit a couple threes. Some nights, Ugo's going to hit a couple threes. Some nights, Jordan Walsh is going to hit a couple threes. Some nights, they're not going to hit anything, like literally zero between them. And it's going to be really tough on your offense to then have everyone else pick up the slack when you have three different guys that are just going to be inconsistent. And that's fine. That's part of the journey with the three of them right now, that if one of them can start to be more consistent on the offensive end, that might be their differentiator or their separator in that kind of competition that they're having. And that's going to take time because they're all just getting real minutes for the first time in their careers. But with that, I just think that offensive rating is going to be really hard to maintain. And so for me, I'm going to say that this is nothing, little bit of early season luck, if you will. You alluded to the kind of the schedule and coming up here, Clippers who are struggling, 2 games against the Nets. Like, this is an opportunity to keep boosting those numbers. So we'll see where they play out after the next week or so. But for now, I'm going to say that this is nothing, but definitely something to keep an eye on.
Celtics average margin of victory right now is 18.6 points. So in their 6 wins, they're winning by 18.6 points. They have 4 wins of over 20 points.
Okay. So yeah, that will certainly help you. And then, there's another number here that maybe we'll get to here in close games that definitely is not on their side. Okay. We'll go to you here, Greg.
All right. I'm going to go NBA wide now. All right. Okay. You ready for this, Will?
Hit me.
The Oklahoma City Thunder are 12-1 right now. Their defense is number 1 in the league by over 6 points per game. They lead the league in steals. They are allowing the least points in the paint, fast break, and second chance points. They average the most defensive rebounds in the league, which is their supposed Achilles heel from a couple of years ago. They're number 1 in generating points off turnovers. They are on pace for the best record of all time, and it's not close. They're on pace, Will, for like a 76-6 record right now.
Yeah.
And potentially historic back-to-back, obviously coming off of the championship last year. SGA currently averaging 32-5-6. Chet is averaging 19-9 and flirting with a 60-40-90 season. Kason Wallace is leading the league in steals. AJ Mitchell. Who the fuck is AJ Mitchell? Is averaging 17-4-4, is third in the league in steals. And guess what, Will? J-Dub hasn't even played yet.
I know. It's terrifying.
The Oklahoma City are about to do a historic back-to-back and become one of the greatest NBA teams of all time. Something or nothing.
Something, fact, buy it, whatever gimmick we're doing. Yeah, 100%. Like the Thunder are terrifying. Like, I thought about putting them. We were debating a couple different, gimmicks that we were going to do here. I was thinking of a way to work the Oklahoma City Thunder in for all the reasons that you just listed out. The biggest of which is probably that their second best player, third team All NBA, third year guy now is in his 4th year, and he hasn't even played yet. And they're 11-1, 12-1, whatever it is.
12-1.
And just statistically, just overwhelming against everybody they play. And they just keep finding guys. And they don't even have to tax guys like Alex Caruso. They can save them for the playoffs. They have the 2 bigs. They've got, you said EJ Mitchell's came out of nowhere. All of a sudden, he's a guy. Sometimes you turn on, there's a couple other guys on their roster who I'm like, who are these guys? I'm sure they're good because they're playing for Oklahoma City. And if you just put on a Thunder jersey these days, it's literally like the Thunderstruck movie with Kevin Durant. You just turn good. You're just a good NBA player now. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know what you do. Like, this is, at least early on, feels like one of those seasons where it's, is everyone just playing for second? Like, unless there's unless there's just an avalanche of injuries at the wrong time to the Thunder, it feels like everyone is kind of just playing for second, and you're just setting yourself up for a just in case scenario. But again, we just highlighted they keep backfilling guys all the time. They don't even have their second best player. So maybe that's fool's gold to even wait on an injury. But yeah, the Thunder feel inevitable right now.
Yeah, they smoked the Lakers last night, full strength outside of LeBron Lakers last night. I think the league's only hope is Jokic, who also had 55 points last night.
Yeah. Yeah, it might be. I mean, listen, and this is here. I'll go to one of mine that's like somewhat in this conversation as well too. Like the only two answers might be Jokic and Wemby. Those are I think maybe the only two answers. It might be too early for Wemby, but something or nothing, Wemby is already a top 3 player in the league.
I actually had this conversation with coworkers the other day. I'm going to say that is nothing. I don't think he's a top 3 player in the league right now because I think it's very clearly Jokic, SGA, and Giannis. I think you can make the argument that he's 4. I wouldn't go that far as of yet. I still think he has to do it consistently for more than this 12 game sample of this season, right? But he's tracking that way for sure. I just think it would be insane to put him above Jokic, SGA, and Giannis right now because, I mean, Giannis's numbers are bananas. Jokic put up 55 last night, and SGA, as we just mentioned, is leading potentially one of the greatest teams of all time. So, like,
Yeah.
Wemby could get there. I think, as you were talking, I was thinking like maybe this is one of those things where the Thunder become like so dominant for the next 2 years. Maybe they're like flirting with a 3-peat next year. And then it's like, you know what? Here's Wemby to save the day. And then it becomes the Wemby era of basketball.
It's a great story too. It's a great arc as well, right? Yeah. Just for the Wemby story. Yeah, I'm with you. I think where I get to right now is I'd probably put him 4th, and that's ahead of Luka. Tatum, just put him to the side right now with the injury. We'll reassess when he comes back. But out of guys playing right now, like I think I'm already ready just because of the defense, even though Luke is also, at least last I checked, he was averaging like 37 points a game. So, like,
he only had 19 last night against the Thunder.
Okay, so maybe he's down to 36. But, like, with Wemby, it's just watching him. And I tried to watch the game last night against the Warriors where Steph goes for 46. Steph's still hanging around. And, the Spurs lost. And but it's still, every time I watch Wemby, there's just something he does that I'm like, how does he do it? Or it's not even just I haven't seen that before. It's things that I do see that he shouldn't be able to do, that I see others do, where I'm like, you shouldn't be able to do that too. And there's this one clip that was going around where he is chasing Steph Curry over and under picks, and he's following him all over the court and then recovers to go block another player at the rim. And we talked about this in the offseason. I forget, we were having a Steph Curry conversation about one of the best aspects of Steph is his relocation and off-ball movement. And Victor Wembanyama's fucking 7'6", following him around screens and around the court, and then recovering to go to the rim and block someone else's shot. Like that, that's just not a thing that you should be able to do. And it's a thing where, we've seen, we were praising Avery Bradley earlier. Like I saw Avery Bradley pick up guys full court, cut through different screens and stick with somebody. And you're like, yo, that's a dog right there. But he's a 6'4" guard, 6'3" guard. Wembanyama's a 1.5 taller. Like it just doesn't make any sense.
And Wemby wants revenge on Steph until Steph retires from basketball for the Olympics. He's like, I'm going to try and get that back every time I play against Steph Curry.
It's the iconic shot. It's him trying to block that shot, right? That is the staple of that Olympic run. So yeah, he's always going to be trying to get it back. And so I'm with you. I think it's nothing right now, but I think he might already be 4th. At worst, he's 5th in the league right now, active this year.
Okay. I'm going to go women's college basketball, Will. Hannah Hidalgo, Notre Dame point guard, had 16 steals in a game last night. Is Hannah Hidalgo, I'm telling you the best way to phrase this, is she setting the bar that will inspire a defensive performance in the NBA to conquer 16 steals?
To be clear, she also had like 40 points in this game.
Yeah, right? It was like 44 and 16. 16 steals. I saw it. I was like, oh, that's a typo. They meant 6. And then I was like, no, she had 16 steals.
Okay. I saw this as a graphic. And at first I was like, oh, this is a cool game. It was like 44 points, 6 rebounds, 7 assists or something. Maybe she had double or something. And I was like, yeah, that is a beast game. I just saw the bottom where it said 16 steals. And I was like, kind of your same thing. I was like, that can't be right. I'm going to say it's nothing. I'm going to say this is an aberration. 16 steals is just like unfathomable. I don't know if you went and tried to watch like some of the highlights from this, like getting 16 steals. I can't even like picture how that would happen in a high level basketball game, right? Like, like they had to have just gone at her
constantly. Like it's kind of like when we were playing
And you would think
our
after 9 steals, maybe they change the game plan at some point, but
right. And it was a blowout. The coaches maybe left her in too long. But like if you're a good defender, right, and someone just like keeps going at you, like I'm thinking about like us playing one-on-one, me, you, and Townsend the other day. Like I'm a pretty good defender. Like when you guys would go at me, I feel like I would at least tip the ball on like 70% of the possessions. You guys still got shots up, but I was always like there, you know
right.
what I mean? And like she was going up against Akron. Right. And it's like Hannah Hidalgo has been a great player for Notre Dame for 3 years now. She's like a defensive menace, and they continue to just like try and dribble at her. It's like at some point you got to do something else. And at some point the coach should probably take her out of the game. But 16 steals, man, that was freaking amazing.
Yeah, shout out to you for bringing some women's college basketball to the program. Did
That's
not
what
see
I'm
that
about,
coming.
baby.
Did not see that coming. All right. I'm going to bring us back to the Celtics here because I've got something here that, we've got a couple days off here that I've wanted to bring up, but I've been hesitant to do so.
Okay.
So, something or nothing. Jaylen Brown, who has been fantastic this year. Let me just get ahead of this. Jaylen Brown's been awesome this year. He's shooting career best effective field goal percentage. He's at a career high, just about 28 points per game. However, get your umbrellas out. I'm going to rain on the parade just a little bit. However, he's currently averaging 5.1 rebounds. It's his lowest total since 2018-19 when he averaged 4.2. When I wanted to bring this up, he was below 5, I think 2 games ago, and then got just over 5. So he's getting closer to where he was, a couple, about 5.8, I think is where he was at last year. However, this team has a rebound deficiency in a rebounding size hole left by Jason Tatum. Something or nothing that Jaylen Brown is having his worst rebounding year since his 3rd year in the league.
Nothing. Jalen's never going to be a guy that gets a ton of rebounds because of his defensive assignments. He's not going to be just like hanging around the rim. Like Tatum oftentimes is a low man, right? So he's kind of like designed within the defensive scheme to grab the ball if it's a missed shot. And I think with Jaylen, he just plays on the ball too much, and he's contesting too many shots for him to necessarily be the guy to get the rebounds. And every rebound that he gets, I feel like is a big one. I think the other night when Kelly Oubre got that offensive putback, that was just like a terrible shot. I don't think his positioning was awful. Him and Oubre were kind of shoulder to shoulder, and then Edwards' shot just like clanked right into Oubre's hand. So even like a possession like that, I don't necessarily put that on JB. And he's doing so much on offense for him to have that extra energy to get one more defensive rebound a game. I don't necessarily know that I'm going to fault JB for that.
Yeah, I mean, I just always feel like he can be a better rebounder. Like he's averaged before, in his career up to almost 7 rebounds per game in his all NBA second season. And he was in for a good stretch above 6 consistently in his career, and over the last year or so, or last couple of years, it's gone down to 5.5, 5.8, now at 5.1. So it's again, he does a lot for this team, so it's really hard to be like, hey man, can you get one more rebound? That's not going to solve everything for this team, right?
Mm-hmm.
But where that is such a gaping hole for this team, it is always something that I like with his athleticism, with his physicality, that I've always in my mind. And to your point, when he does get a rebound, it feels important. It feels big. And so maybe that's part of the bias in my mind that I've always associated him as being, he's not a bad rebounder, certainly, but being a better rebounder than he is when you start to look at some of these stats. And like, Tatum's got a lot of responsibilities. He still gets 8, 9, 10 rebounds a game. You see a lot of these other, stars in the league. And listen, as the lead dog, like, you still see these guys getting boards. Now,
Mm-hmm.
not all of them are going to be tough in traffic rebounds. I get that. But 5 rebounds, I do think there could be more. So to me, it is a little something. I don't think it's anything major, but I do think it's a little something. And it's a little something for me where it's like, hey, listen, you're top dog. Everybody's got to, you just get more pressure. You get more criticism. It kind of comes with it. And so it is what it is. And it's really
that was going to be
everything else.
That was going to be my last point is like, I don't think it's anything, but I always think it's good to challenge your best player to do a little bit more. Right. So that he's the type of guy that if you said, hey, Jaylen, you need to get 2 more rebounds a game, he would take it personally and he would go do it. Right. So I'm okay with it being something just because I think JB is the type of guy that's going to take that challenge because I fucking love JB. Okay, last one.
Yeah, let's do it.
Luka Garza reportedly
Yeah, boy.
shot 12,000 more practice shots than anybody else in the NBA last season. I don't know if you saw this.
I did.
Joe Mazzulla said he plays harder than anybody else on the court. Luka Garza's work ethic is making him a viable NBA rotation big. Is this something or nothing?
I'll say it's something, and I'll give you a quick story here. So I went for a run just in my neighborhood. I was gonna go to the gym. I was like, it's been like a bunch of traffic, like trying to get to the gym. It's like, fuck it, I'm just gonna go for a run in the neighborhood. And so, like, I hate running. I absolutely despise running. It's just not fun for me. And so usually I have to turn it into some type of game where it's like, run for this entire song, and then stop, walk a little bit. Then it's like pick out a visualization and like, I'm in the neighborhood here. I don't know if I'm sprinting like I'm on a track, but it's like, let's go harder than just a jog, right? And like,
yeah, it's like, oh, let's get to that light pole.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I was heading towards the end of my run, and I was going down the street next to mine. And then when you turn and take a left, there's like a hill that you go up. And so I was like, all right, I'm going to make my final push. Like right when I hit that corner, I'm just going to go as hard as I can up this portion of the hill and to get to my street.
Yeah.
And I saw this, I think it was our guy, Bill Sy, who tweeted out a video from Major League. What's the catcher's name?
I always forget his name. I know you're talking about.
It's Taylor something. I don't know if Taylor's the first name or like Jake Taylor.
Yeah.
And so there's like the scene of him like running as hard as he can down the line after he throws down the bunt in the big game, and it looks like Luka Garza. I think of Luka Garza when he like runs. It
worst running form in the league.
Yeah, it reminds me a little bit of like the Enos Freedom days when we used to say like this looks like he's an alien trying to figure out how to run. Luka Garza knows how to run, but he just has to try, like put on this like. And so I was thinking of that going up the hill. So his work ethic is inspiring me because I was like, I was putting my Luka Garza into it, trying to get up to the top of the hill. And so, I mentioned this at the beginning of the season. We were talking about him and Tillman, and you pointed out like Tillman's actually played meaningful minutes. From the preseason, I was like, I think I'd lean Garza over Tillman. And it's certainly bared out that way so far. I'm not going to give myself a massive pat in the back for a Garza Tillman debate, but I do think Garza, offensively, he can be a professional NBA basketball player.
Man.
As you said, it's just the defensive side. You worry about, he's a little ground bound and slow, and so it's a little bit tough, but he's been really, really solid. And I think, again, I still stand by my statement of he gives me 90 Celtics bigs vibes. Like Luka Garza fits the Vitaly Potapenko, Andrew DeClercq mold in my mind.
So here's my thing. I think not being able to jump is actually some guy's superpower and what makes a good rebounder, because you're always able to like get into position while other people are looking to jump, right? Or like are already in the air and they're like, oh shit, I'm in the air and I can't reposition myself now. Like think about Kevin Love, one of the best rebounders in NBA history, can't jump. And I think it's very similar, right? As the ball is going up, Luka Garza is 100% just focused on body positioning and never worried about out jumping someone, whereas a lot of guys think they can just go get the board, right? So I actually think he's, it's like evolution. He's figured out how to turn something that is a disadvantage into an advantage for himself. And I love it, man. I think Luka Garza has been awesome.
Yeah, Luka's been a nice part. Again, this is like one of the weird things of what has led this team to 6 and 7, their 8th in net rating, right? Is like you have a lot of these guys that were on the fringes. We didn't really know what to think of them. Luka Garza has been as good or better than expected. Josh Minott, same. Hugo Gonzalez, same. Jordan Walsh, last 5 games, same. Right. And so that's kind of propelling this team to that 500 mark. And what you have is, again, it's the Peyton Pritchard shooting and Derek White shooting that probably stand out the most as like, hey, if those get on track, this team is an above 500 team, as well as, we'll see what happens in clutch games. That was the one stat I was alluding to earlier in the podcast. Celtics are 2-5 in those clutch games. Just like you mentioned, they have a large, 18 points is their average win margin, I think you said, but only 2-5 in the clutch game. So they're staying connected in out of the other games, but they're losing, a lot of those battles. And so, it's guys like Luka that are making the difference, that give the Celtics a fighting chance and at least keep them in the mix to see if they want to do something and get frisky. We'll see what's happening in Dallas. It looks like a lot of rumors are going to blow that up with Nico gone. I think there's some interesting guys on that roster if the Celtics are able to make a move. Like, maybe go sniff around to Daniel Gafford. Although we're praising Luka Garza, I'd rather have Daniel Gafford if I'm being honest. And so, there's some moves that can be made, but it's going to be these guys keeping it close, keeping an eye on that Jason Tatum timeline and on those videos that you mentioned earlier that are like, hey, if these guys can play above their weight class a little bit, we get Jason Tatum back. Maybe there's room to make a move on a guy we didn't expect. All of a sudden, this season could change and get way more interesting really quickly by the time we get to March. But that's a ways down the road.
Cool. You got anything else?
I got nothing, man. I got nothing, man. I think that's gonna do it. Yeah, I just choked on my water right there. I got nothing else. That's gonna do it for this episode here of Green with Envy. That's a little game called Something or Nothing. We'll be back later this week. Celtics have until I think it's Sunday. Let me just double check the calendar
Sunday
here. They don't play again until Sunday. So likely sometime Sunday night, we'll probably put something together, or Monday morning, and have something for you guys.
Let's call it Monday morning, everybody, because I know that they're my parents are in town. Will's got a party at his house on Sunday, so we'll call it Monday morning.
We'll call it Monday morning. Expect Monday morning. We'll have something for you. Until then, enjoy your weekend, and we will catch you guys later. Peace.